All right, graveyard crafting theory crafting video part one of who knows how many this is going to be. Got a quick one. I was doing some planning theory crafting on graveyard crafting stuff for some of the crafts that I want to do, and came up with something that seemed really good, and I think it's very powerful for when you are doing higher end crafts where you're basically looking to fill out your whole graveyard and optimize your crafts, and specifically for when you are looking to try to implement the plus 20% chance to craft an additional item corpses. Which basically just if you get that to like 100%, instead of doing the craft that everything else in the graveyard is doing and giving you just the one item, it basically performs that craft twice and will give you a second item. In this case, we're going to get that all the way up to 200% and make it give us 3 items. And so this right here is a graveyard layout kind of spreadsheet thing. I believe this was posted by a user on Reddit. Very useful starting point for us. Basically just gives you the layout. It's got a legend of some random stuff. I'll really quickly run through these if you haven't seen it. Block space is just spots where there's no graves. You can't do anything with it. Green on this, the dark green, is like, it says free tile. Basically things that aren't being necessarily boosted by anything other than they're kind of being boosted by these yellows potentially, but like relatively low prio ones. The light blue is saying that's where it thinks you should put the grave corpses for either 25% increased effect of other corpses in this row or in this column. The light gray is just around the edge, it's just the border. The 40% is suggesting where you would put something that says 40% increased adjacent corpses. Now, these ones are tied to a specific monster category, so it would say like adjacent humanoid corpses have 40% increased effect, or adjacent undead corpses have 40% increased effect. And so basically, it puts these at any spot that has 3 or 4 touching adjacent, and adjacent is either above, below, left, or right. It does not include diagonals. And then these lighter green ones with the vertical lines are showing just stuff that's being buffed by a 25% column boost, and then same thing but horizontal for the row boosts. And the ones with the plus sign, the cross, is where there's an intersection of those. So instead of getting 25% from a row or a column, it's getting both. So it's getting plus 50%. And then the purple ones are things that are not getting boosted by anything. And real quickly, before I go into what I've changed up a bit, if you're curious what that layout is, basically this direction in game up to the right northeast is basically north for the orientation of the graveyard, and then so southwest is south, and you can just orient it like that. So like if I go up here, you can see there's a 3 by 2, so 3 and 3, and that's representing right here. So I wanted to min max getting the chance for additional item crafted, but those are very rare and very expensive. So I don't want to use like 5 of them to make it 100% chance, because that's just not efficient. So this is what I've come up with. I basically tried to copy the formatting of that original one and just it's kind of scuffed, but copy pasted shows the idea. Basically, these orange squares are where I'm going to be putting 3 of the chance to dupe, or not dupe, chance to craft additional item. And instead of just being 20% chance, which is the baseline, they are getting boosted all the way up to 67% chance, 71% chance, and 71% chance for a total of 209% additional item craft chance, which means you're getting guaranteed 2 extra copies with a 9% chance for a third extra copy. And so the way we're doing this is starting off with these 4 yellow squares. These are where I would put adjacent corpse boosts of specific monster type. So for example, in each of these 4 yellows, I would have like 40% chance or 40% increased effect of adjacent humanoid corpses. And that would be all 4 of these. Each of them would have it, which also means that now my 3 rather additional crafting chance corpses, they also need to match that monster category. So they also have to be humanoid, which makes it a little bit pickier on getting your additional crafts, but like I don't think any are necessarily more rare, at least much more rare than others. It shouldn't be too hard potentially to like if I had 2 humanoids and an undead one, I could find somebody to trade my undead additional craft for their humanoid additional craft. I don't think there's going to be much, if any, difference in value on those. Maybe there's like some really rare monster category types that lose value, but they're not going to be like humanoid is worth so much more than the rest. They seem to be relatively evenly split. But either way, so you need all total of these 7 to be matching monster category types. And then nothing else really matters for the monster category type, but those 7 need to be the exact same. And then, so in addition to each of these, so this one in the middle is getting plus 40% from all 4 of these, and these 2 on the edges are getting 2 of the 40%. And then, but these 2 on the edges have this whole row down here full of 25% row boosts for a total of 125% there. And then they have 2 column boosts each for another plus 50. And then the one in the center that's getting the quad adjacent is also getting 2 column boosts and 1 row boost. So the total amount of corpses you need for this spot of the setup specifically is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 corpses. So if you're like trying to plan the rest of your craft and you want to make sure you have enough for this, you need to make sure you have at least 19 corpse spots available. And then the rest you can kind of just do whatever. I think the default bit of this sheet does a pretty good job of kind of suggesting like your other stuff that's relatively high value, you would put in either these crosses or in spots adjacent to these yellows, essentially. And the lower value stuff would go in like the lowest value stuff that doesn't need to be boosted at all would go in like the purples, and then the lower would go in these like lighter greens. But yeah, so that basically we're just using 3 of the 20% increased or 20% chance for additional crafts. You get a full 209% instead of 60%. And it's going to guarantee that instead of getting 1 item from your craft, you're going to get 3 full crafts of your item. Yeah, I think that's gonna be really good. Maybe there's a spot that's like slightly better even, but otherwise, this area on the graveyard wasn't like super optimal for, it didn't have much for super long rows. It just kind of had this dense little square, which I think suits best for this type of just heavily stacking boosts for the same types of corpses. And yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully it helps. I think it's going to be really useful. Thanks for watching. See ya.